It's the entire world versus Israel on the Gaza war in a way. The Trump administration has become increasingly isolated in its position on Israel's war in Gaza. Britain, Canada, Australia, Portugal, France, Belgium, Monaco have recognized the state of Palestine, a move born out of frustration in a way over Israel's conduct in the war. The decision aligning these countries with more than 140 other countries also backing Palestinians' aspiration to forge an independent homeland from the occupied territories. And as per the latest count, at least 151 countries out of 193 UN members now recognize the state of Palestine. 6 European nations added their names to the list with statements at the UN on Monday, the day before the UK and Canada became the first G7 countries to make such a recognition, with Australia and Portugal also following suit. Russia, alongside all Arab countries, almost all African and Latin American states, and most Asian nations already recognize Palestinian statehood. As more and more countries recognize Palestinian statehood, Prime Minister Netanyahu is preparing his country for, in his words, a kind of isolation that could last for years. For the first time last week, Netanyahu conceded that international outrage over how Israel is waging the war in Gaza is turning Israel into a pariah. The annual United Nations General Assembly in New York is proof, in fact. But here's the cold, hard truth. While Netanyahu acknowledges Israel's growing isolation, he has used it as an opportunity to call on Israel's arm makers to step up their readiness. He has asked them to strengthen Israel's independent weapons industries so the country has arms independence. In fact, it's a reality. Israel and its arms makers have long produced some of the most cutting-edge weapons technology, and those weapons have been sold to countries around the world. But as international criticism of the war in Gaza escalates, Israel risks losing its position in some of those markets. And last week itself, Spain annulled hundreds of millions worth of orders for battlefield weapons made by Israeli companies. For now, the Israeli Ministry of Defense has reported $14.7 billion in export sales in 2024. Which is a 13% increase over the previous year. More than half of its defense deals were made with European countries. Israel's multi-billion-dollar arms industry sales are at a record high, in part because their weaponry is known as battle-tested. Israel's past 2 years of the war in Gaza, as well as operations in Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, have all helped solidify Israel's standing as a leading global arms supplier. The Arrow missile interceptor, made by Israeli arms manufacturer Israel Aerospace Industries, successfully intercepted Iranian ballistic missiles at high altitude during the 12-day conflict over the summer. And Israeli-made reactor armor also used routinely on IDF tanks and battle vehicles operating inside Gaza. And then there is the Israeli variant of the US origin F-35. It's now drawing attention to Israeli-designed upgrades. Still, the boom may be ebbing as the war in Gaza drags on and on. It becomes more and more of a problem in a way. Around the world, ordinary citizens are protesting and asking their governments to do more to pressure Israel and stop its war on Gaza. Just today in Paris, people gathered once again to show solidarity with the Palestinians in Gaza. In the UK, the British government last year suspended around 30 arms export sales to Israel, but exempted components for F-35 aircraft. The British government also banned Israeli government officials from attending the London Arms Fair. The Israeli government had slammed the decision, calling it a deliberate and regrettable act of discrimination. But Israel is facing similar moves from a number of its allies. This summer, the French government also shut down stands for major Israeli arms companies. Following Israel's recent strike on Hamas leaders in Doha, the UAE has also banned the Israeli government and defense companies from their Dubai air show, which is scheduled for November. So the way things stand right now, Israel can afford to keep fighting the war in Gaza, but the cost for Israel continues to go up.